Okay, so now that we're getting all this figured out, welcome, and I'm excited to have you today for our fifth edition of the Business Unusual webinar series. And I'm excited for those that have taken time out of their day in order to log in. I know I've got several folks that are also, they've registered and they couldn't make the time work today. So they're going to be hopping in at later times, which is why we're recording it. You will receive an email following our session that will include the webinar links. It will include the slide deck. And then we've also got some worksheets and exercises for you to do today. Now, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and dive in real quick with I'm Brendan Filbert, managing partner with SalezWORKS. I think everybody on the call knows me pretty well. Maybe some of you may know me a little bit too well. You've been hanging around with me for a while, for a few years, and you've had the opportunity to have a lot of gentle encouragement in your prospecting effort. I'm delighted that you are continuing to tune back in, and my goal is to make sure that everything that we're giving you is highly relevant and actionable and applicable to your business today. Now, I'm going to take just a really quick second, turn things over, let Chris introduce himself, and then I'm going to go ahead and kill the webcams so that we don't have the drag on the presentation. So, Chris, wave and say hi.
Hi, Chris Motley. I own Motley Creations. Been around for, gee, 2 decades now. What we are is a small agency that our bailiwick is kind of tech. Right, we do a lot of informational and training materials and things for little bitty companies like Sprint and Qualcomm and SBT Robotics and Swisslog, all these kind of things. So, but I also I'm here in town.
You like hanging out with people like me too.
Yeah, I'm in town, and I do have, along with those other clients, I have a lot of medium-sized, small clients around town as well. So I'm grateful to be here. Thanks for tuning in.
So his information that he's going to be sharing with you is very relevant for either big companies or little. So his background and expertise is not just in serving that small or mid-market or large market. He's worked with a very diverse group, which is why I was pretty excited to include him as my collaborator in this series that we're going to be doing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hopefully shut off webcams. Okay, well, let's see if we can just shut that off. I think we did. Can you, well, nope, it's still there because I want to make sure. Okay, I think it's gone now because the light just went away. Yeah. Okay, so we should hopefully will not have that drag on our internet as we move forward, because I think we're all kind of, our street has been overloaded with technology burdens that they didn't experience before. And I think everybody is kind of experiencing that same thing in your business when we're in a brave new world. And our goal is to make sure that the activities that you're doing at a given moment in time are the right ones to lead to the results you're looking for. Now, the first question that we always want to ask and answer is who is our session for today? Because I want to make sure that we are engaging the right people that we can have the most benefit for. So who we specifically wrote our content for today, it was business owners or leaders who are concerned with managing costs right now in terms of their marketing, but they also are responsible for driving sales and new business. The other group that we were thinking of when we started this were those entrepreneurs or single business owners, sole proprietors, solopreneurs that we need our phone to be ringing like yesterday. And we need it to keep ringing as we navigate through the COVID-19 issue and beyond, because we know that this is going to have a lasting impact on the economy. And I want you to be positioned to take advantage of the opportunities and not shut out or paralyzed because the markets that you were pursuing may have gone away or slowed down for whatever reason. So we want to make sure that, again, you focus on the right activities. The other individuals, and this is a group that Chris has a lot of experience in serving, is if you are a marketing department or lead a marketing department, you may have had access to a lot of talent and a lot of internal resources that are furloughed now. And you may be evaluating who comes back and what their roles are. And that's an area that we're also going to be addressing today. And then finally, the last group that we were specifically thinking of when we put together our content for today, it was sales professionals that are consistently looking for ways to keep adding to their funnel. And the company marketing efforts in a lot of cases may not be sufficient to drive the leads or nurture the leads that you are most excited to pursue. So that's who we're talking to today. With that, I'm going to kick things over to Chris, and he's going to dive in and talk to us about some pretty exciting content about things we can be doing right now. Chris?
Thank you. First thing I want to say, though, is stick around, right, till the end of this, because Brendan has a phenomenal offer that you guys don't want to miss out on. I plan on taking advantage of it myself. So with that, let's get moving. So right now, our world is in new territory, right? I'm not a spring chicken, and I've never seen anything like this, right? Not in my lifetime. And people inherently don't like change. It's unpredictable, and they lose that sense of control in their life. And so what ends up happening is sometimes fear is out of proportion to the situation, right? How many times have you gotten through something that you feared and went, well, that wasn't so bad? Right? I know that happens to me a lot in life. My imagination being what I do for a living, I have a very vivid imagination, and I can imagine horrible scenarios. So most businesses are taking a wait and see attitude with the worst case scenario lingering in their mind, right? They've gone into guard mode, and then they don't want to spend until the dust settles, right? What if we guess wrong? What if it doesn't work? What if we fail? Blah 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 blah, on and on and on and on. And to me, that's just not. That's fortune favors the bold. You can't live in that fear mindset, right? Caution is good, fear is not, right? What I like is John Wayne saying is courage is being scared to death and saddling up anyway, right? And so we kind of need to develop some courage in this. So that's not, there we go. Okay. So, you may be thinking that you feel guarded too, that you don't like uncertainty either, and that maybe, just maybe, you should wait and see what others do and follow suit. And I have a few thoughts on that. So let's go ahead and cover some of them. There we go. So I belong to an organization where we keep each other accountable, right? And one thing I often say to those men after a fear-ridden tirade on the phone or something is, oh, I see, you're right. Your mind reading and future predicting skills have always been spot on before. You should make all your decisions based on heightened emotional states, right? That's a great plan. And what I remind them of is that, your prognostication skills are horrible, right? And so many times I have to be saved from my own self, right? And I highly recommend that if you don't have people to keep you accountable, I say get some, right? So it's like the gentleman in the illustration, right? We are incapable of seeing the whole picture, right? So we make assumptions based on our situation, right? In my case, it's ended badly, more than a couple of times. So what I do is, when it gets to that fear kind of thing, is I walk around with an attitude of what's in it for me, right? And when I get into that state of mind, the answer is always not enough, right? Because it's going up against fear. So need to do is move from a protected mindset to a mindset of how can I help, right? And well, how do you do that? Well, I once heard a public speaker talk about attitude as it relates to flying a plane. And he said, in flying, attitude means angle of approach, right? And he said, I have no internal switches where I can stop being scared or angry or worried or whatever, but I can change how I approach situations, right? So I think that's very, very, very important now, because you see what people do when they're in a panic, right? So you have to ask yourself, is survival enough? And we'll get into some reasons why I don't think it is right now. Do I leave it up to those who take action to determine my fate, or do I choose to be daring and to thrive? Right. So Jim Collins wrote a book, a great book called Good Great, and which I highly recommend. And I love how he compares your business to a gigantic flywheel. In that starting a business, it takes Herculean effort to get that flywheel moving, right? And he says you have to have great vision and great people and great methodology and so on and so forth, and then you move to disciplined people and disciplined thought and disciplined action and on and on and on, which is a huge oversimplification. Just get the book and read it. Anyway, so if I'm thinking of my company as a giant flywheel, or you think of your company as a giant flywheel, when I stop doing the things that like the sales efforts and the marketing efforts and things like that, is my flywheel starts slowing down, right? And being directionless, well, now who do we market to? And or you're not filling up your prospecting funnel or anything like that. You can bring that whole thing to a halt, and it is, it's much easier to work with inertia and build momentum than it is to starting up from a dead stop, right? And one thing I want you to know is one of my mentors taught me that the most successful people in life get it right 51% of the time, and that's a large margin of error, right? So he gave me this little nugget so I would stop being scared of making mistakes, right? So I'm telling you, get a mentor, right? You're not alone. You are not alone. Find somebody who is successful that you can bounce ideas off of, because we are notoriously live in our own head and think it, until it comes out of our mouth and we say, well, that's the dumbest crap I've ever heard before, right? It makes sense between my ears. So you need, now more than ever, get outside of your comfort zone. That's where growth comes from, right? So enough about personal. So what do we do when we panic, right? We buy all the toilet paper, of course. We buy all the medical masks so the people in the front line, the doctors and stuff, can't get them, right? And it snowballs from there. It just gets worse and worse and worse unless there is a voice of reason, right? So people like us are type A personalities, and we are the doers and the seekers, and most people will not take the risk of starting a company. It takes a special kind of crazy to do what we do, right? So I believe it is our job to be that voice of reason, and I'll tie all this in. So people like us are we're experts in our field, right? We're subject matter experts. And so I believe we need to change how we're communicating with everybody, right? So whatever field you're in, you are an expert. So you built that expertise from your experience. So get out there and be a thought leader. Whatever it looks like, whatever the overbuying of toilet paper is in your industry, you get out there and tell people, let them know that's the wrong way. Let's do it this way, right? So let's go to, come on. There we go. So what I believe, though, is that this will pass, right? And either way, we'll adapt or it'll blow past, right? But business will have to go on. So one way or another, we have to do business. So you can address your clients now during hard times to give them encouragement and resources and guidance, right? So, and think about it as, law of physics is for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So as scared and as frozen as your clients are right now, when the pendulum swings back and the sun comes out, and if it ends up that it all blows over and people are going to come outside with really bad haircuts and the weather's nice and they're going to be so relieved, they're going to start spending like crazy, right? So if you take your time now in your marketing efforts to address the things that they're worried about, when they come out and they're ready to start spending again, now you're top of mind. You see what I mean? So, okay, Brendan, back to you.
Okay, Now, I've got a quick question for everybody. Based on what Chris has just shared with you, and just take a second and chat to me where you are at in terms of your marketing efforts. Are you pursuing full throttle? Are you a little bit apprehensive? Have you slowed down? Tell me where you're at in terms of that flywheel that he was talking about. Have you slowed down or are you full steam ahead? Just give me a quick chat. I want to kind of take the pulse of where our group is, because that'll help us as we move forward with our conversation today, because I want to know whether or not we are starting from zero or you are. All right. So now my screen went. Did it just pop up and you saw my really pretty dream barn that popped up here a little bit ago? Okay, I've got some full steam and I've got some getting started and some that are right there in the middle. All right then. Well, that'll be great. So hopefully I'll be able to help everyone where they're at right now. Now, the first thing that we always want to focus on is, of course, our current clients. And I know that we have this immediate, almost sense of responsibility of serving the people that are already paying us. And in some cases, if your contacts are limited, we may want to fall too much into serving that group to the exclusion of just taking care of clients and being overwhelmed with it, and not looking up and looking around and recognizing that our situation will change, and 90 days from now, you are going to need new people to talk to. And if we don't actively prospect now, we're going to be facing a dry pipeline in 3 or 6 months, and that's not a great place to be. So we're going to focus on current clients first, but I want you thinking about your clients a little bit differently right now. And what that is I want you to be embarking on every single conversation and taking yourself back. So for instance, before we just got started, I actually asked one of our attendees today, when was the last time he had had this much time in the office without having to travel to clients or conferences or different events. And it makes you step back and you have to take stock with where you're at right now. And what is critically important is that you recognize with every conversation that you are talking to a person and not a business, and understand where that person is at this moment in time. And with market research, we have a tendency to look at the outside of what a business is experiencing. So for instance, you may look at a company that's deemed non-essential right now and say, well, that business owner is off doing something else until they can come back to work. And that's probably an assumption that couldn't be farther from the truth. That business owner is probably losing sleep and is probably spending 10 and 12 hours a day figuring out what their action plan is going to be for when they open up. And they're probably continuing to communicate with their employees and with their clients and with their vendors and figuring out what their next steps are. So it's really important that you don't make any assumptions right now of who you are serving and what their needs are at this moment in time. The other thing that I want you digging into right now is this is a time right now that it is the most critical for you to understand your relevance today, not next week, not next month, but today. What are their challenges that they're dealing with at this moment? Because the more you dig in and you can provide the solutions for whatever their needs are right now, the more emotional equity that creates, and the more that will position you to be top of mind right now. So when we're talking about the highest impact efforts you can have with your marketing and your sales, and I know everybody looks at me with but you're talking about client management. What does that have to do with sales? Everything. Because if we don't have that active and engaged group of raving fans, they're the first place that will grow your business. Your existing clients have the potential to reproduce themselves at least once every year. That once may be through increasing the size of their own business with you, doing more. It may be introducing you to another department or division within their business if they're a larger organization, or it may be introducing you to one of their peers or coworkers or colleagues that they know is navigating the same thing. So that's always the first place that we start. Then we move to dormant relationships or clients that we may not have worked with for a couple of years, but when you are having that check-in call with them, and by checking in, I don't mean don't send an email that says I'm just checking in, or I'm touching base, want to see how things are going with you, because there is nothing that screams more, this will be a waste of time call, than I'm just calling to check in. But with that being said, we do want to have regular touch points with relationships that are dormant as well as those that are currently active. And it's because people's situation changes, their life changes. Think of how many changes you've experienced over the past 30 days. And the answer is probably a lot. So it's really important that you do reach out, identify those contacts that you want to re-engage. Think of what can you do for them. So you will have to look at what their business is in, the state that they're in. Look at where your clients are. So this question that I had you ask back here, where I'm talking about addressing the person, not the business, what their situations are, there's a very good chance that that information will be relevant when you're thinking about how can you be helpful for these folks right now. Because much as I said, those non-essential businesses, those business owners are probably doing some pretty similar things. And then the essential businesses, they're dealing with an entirely different set of challenges. They are probably overwhelmed and dealing with burnout. And for instance, whenever I think of my best clients, I work with a lot of attorneys and accountants and bankers. And Lordy, bankers are so busy right now. I don't know of any banker that has had time to breathe. They're working 12 and 14 hours a day because of everything that's going on with the CARES Act and with distribution of the stimulus funds. So they're in a completely different space. But if you do start to talk to one banker, that helps you figure out where you can add value, and then you can reach out to your dormant relationships that are bankers and say, hey, I was just thinking about you because I know you're probably overwhelmed. So you're not going to reach out to your bankers that are referral partners right now with a, hey, let's schedule an hour. But I guarantee you, if you shipped them Starbucks or sent lunch, that's been one of my favorite things, is to have lunch dropped in with some of my favorite people, and they're in the middle of their day and they don't have time to take out. So having lunch that shows up on their doorstep with Uber Eats has been a really big blessing for a whole lot of people right now. And again, you wouldn't believe the emotional equity that's creating. Now, the thing that you want to be always aware of is that authenticity is key. So when you're thinking about these relationships, you truly do need to be looking at where and how can you have the greatest impact, and what's their biggest challenge you can address for them. And I'll tell you right now, the biggest challenge that I'm finding that I am helping my clients navigate, and all of my contacts, everybody leaves a conversation or a session saying, I feel so much better after talking to you. You're positive. You're giving me something that I can take action and I can do. And I haven't thought once about being scared during this call. So I recognize that that is how I can help people the most right now. That's my superpower at this moment in time. So I truly want to see how many people I can help right now. And then that leads me to the other opportunity that this is opening up. If there's something at the back of your mind that you have wanted to do for a long time that you thought would be helpful to your clients, but you haven't necessarily had the time to focus on it, now is the time. So I had wanted to do a podcast or a webinar series, and it's been kind of at the back of my brain for about a year. But it took the situation right now and Chris with a, you know what, why not now? Let's do it, to basically get me moving and overcome that inertia. And I can't tell you how helpful it is for you to think about how can you partner up with other professionals right now that can help you provide greater value. Okay, so we have talked about a couple of different things now up to this point. My question that I have for you before we transition into taking action is, what are the areas that make the most sense for you to focus your time right now? If you are immersed in client relationships, you've got that going on, that's great. Are there market research questions you need to add to that? Do you need to re-engage your dormant client base? Or do you need to identify the relationships with partners that you should be bringing in right now to provide the greatest impact? So answer real quick for me in the chat. Are you focusing on 1, 2, or 3? Or is it 1, 2, and 3? 1 was current clients. 2 is dormant relationships. And 3 is referral partners. Gonna take just a second. Okay. I'm hearing a little bit of 1. Okay. Focusing on dormant relationships as well. Okay. All right. So with that, we're going to transition now to how you take action based on that direction. And I do want to make sure that I let you know, as we go through our conversation today, we are building up to, this is your action plan. This is what you are going to take out of it. This is how you make sure that this just wasn't entertainment. Because while, yes, I want you to enjoy the conversation you have with us, I want you to do things based on what you come out of today's conversation with that will make you money tomorrow or next week, because tomorrow's Saturday. So, and I don't know how many of y'all are working on the weekends. All right, Chris.
Thank you. So let's see if I can take control of this again. Okay, so you're probably going, all right, you've made your point. But what exactly do I do? Well, I'm glad you asked. So start with educating your clients. You have a captive audience, literally. There's no sports, no restaurants, nobody's taking vacations, and there's only so much TV you can watch and so many puzzles you can put together, right? So they're starved. Give them content. Share articles that you've read that could apply to certain clients and send it with a personal note. Send out newsletters with the content you write, right? And challenge the way your clients think. Be the voice of reason. Think about all the questions that they call and ask you, and then start answering them by writing articles, right? You don't have to, make up stuff off the top of your head. Your phone's going to ring. Your clients will ask, and my experience is that they usually ask the same things, right? So another idea is hold webinars. Why didn't we think of that, Brandon? Oh, wait, we did. So, we're trying to give you positive feedback and actions you can take, right? So pay it forward. And the kind of format is a town hall meeting. My accountant, the company that she works for, I've gotten maybe 4 invites since all of this has started, and it's people are panicking about their taxes, their this and that, their business and things like that. And so they're having questions about the PPP program and all that. And so what he did was preemptively had town hall meetings. In other words, he would start a webinar and he would answer, say a bunch of things, right? And then he would open it up and a Zoom meeting where people could just ask questions and he could answer them one by one by one by one. And he's done that every time major information comes out. Well, you could be that person, right? In your particular industry. So come on, there we go. So and believe it or not, consumers are still buying right now, right? They're more cautious. They're looking for good deals, right? And I'm not guessing that they are. This is empirical data from the Great Depression, and then the whatever you call it, the 2008 version of the recession, the Great Recession or whatever. So what they found out was that people were still buying, right? So if that's the case, then you need to change your tactics. I'm not a big slash your prices guy, and you've worked hard to be the expert you are, so charge for it, right? But tough times call for tough measures. So you can incentivize your marketing with short-term discounts and coupons and whatever, interest free for a period or whatever, whatever works in your industry. People are looking. Yeah.
Short-term price incentives, what I encourage you to think of there is not so much a discount, but think of how you can have a special offer that may be a fraction of your regular service that is at a fraction of the price, but allows someone to get in and engage with you.
Right. So it may be that, instead of one big payment, you allow them to make, smaller payments, monthly payments or whatever. Right. But whatever it is that you're going to your clients and going, I understand this is tough times. And we're trying to change our model to fit that. Now this is not how you're going to stay, right? Because when it comes back, I'm a firm believer in value-based charging, right? Pricing. So, and if you do this now, right? What the empirical data says is that, perhaps your competitor isn't doing this, and so you're the lone voice in the market, right? And so, when it returns to normal, you get to keep a percentage of those clients, right? They'll become loyal to you.
And you get to keep a lot of them.
Yeah.
That's the part that's really cool about this.
Right. So, like I said, whispers loud in a silent room, right? So why should I market now, right? There's and it was it in I can't remember the exact saying, but there's a saying in marketing that you should advertise in tough times, or I mean in regular times, and then in tough times it's more important to advertise,
you
right?
Must advertise.
Yeah, you must advertise. That's it. So I read this article lately, right, that says advertising now is more important than ever, right? So, and some of the benefits of advertising right now is there's less noise. You're not fighting as many ads with your competitors, so it'll give people a sense that your company is more stable, and maybe their company isn't advertising, so maybe you take a part of their share of the market, right? And this is not a catch and release thing. This is, you get to keep them, right? Because when it's all said and done, you were there when they were afraid, right? So, and it's really easy for me to say these things, but so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some honest to goodness facts, right? So in the Great Depression, Post was a leading cereal company, right? Had been for a long time. But when the Great Depression hit, they cut way back on their marketing. I mean, significantly. And their competitor, Kellogg's, doubled its advertising. And their profits grew by 30%. And they have been the category leader for decades now. They passed Post, right? In the recession in the 70s, Toyota was, a okay company, right? But VW was the most imported vehicle. And what ended up happening was, I think this is the first year that the government came out with miles per gallon reports and things like that. And so Toyota played on that, and instead of cutting their spending and things like that and reining it back in and being guarded, they followed their mission, right? And they kept going and kept going. And VW stopped advertising. And so what ended up happening is they surpassed VW now, right? And it's still today, right? So in 2008, most people cut back on spending on advertising, right? R&D, everything. And Amazon didn't. what they did was they started to keep trying to innovate and things like that. And what ended up happening was they came out with like the Kindle and things, and all these different products, and you've heard of the Amazon effect, right? There's a lot of businesses that went out of like Toys R Us and things like that because of Amazon. And in 2009, their sales grew by 28% when other people are falling apart, right? They kept coming out with new tech. I think it was December of 2009 was the first time that Kindle or ebooks outsold paper books, right? And so anyway, if you keep growing and keep business as usual, right? The people are going to see you as being innovators, and you have strength, right? You're going to be around if they need you later, and it's going to start giving them confidence in your name. And what ends up happening is that if you get them now, you give them some kind of special deal like we talked about before, or break it into bite-sized payments and things like that. Then when it comes back, you put your prices exactly the same again, right? But these people have confidence in you. So it's basically you did them a favor when times are tough. So now you're going to be top of mind when like I said, I believe it's going to swing back and people are going to start spending money again, right? So.
And I want to add one thing real quick.
Sure.
And this is actually, I worked for Toyota from 1997 to 2001. So I got to know the history of the company quite a bit. And the thing that was really interesting about that period in time that Chris was speaking of is that was when they invested in significant innovation and really promoted their Kaizen and lean initiatives and totally transformed their production. And that's when they leapfrogged over VW. So it's a phenomenal example of, yes, it was marketing, but they truly did go back to what is it that will cause us to, I don't want to say revitalize. I mean, it truly was that effort that transformed their business. So recognize that there are pockets of companies out there and pockets of people that are the Kellogg's and the Toyotas, and they're in all markets. And what we have to do is recognize who are those outliers, and those are the relationships that you want to capture right now, because when you capture them, you will be with them forever. That's a big part that I want to share. Okay.
This is all you.
It's all me. All right. Now, here's where we're going to dive in. And I'm excited about this particular part of putting your plan together, because this is where you really step back and think about what do you want to accomplish and why. So I've got a quick question for you right now, and I want you to answer this in the chat. What is your focus in prospecting right now? Do you need to create opportunity that is going to create cash flow to keep your mortgage paid and your lights on? I mean, where are you at right now? Are you needing to focus on an immediate revenue? Do you need to replace revenue that you've lost? Or is this something that you're just being proactive and recognizing that you can capitalize on an opportunity at this moment in time that will make an impact? So it's more of a, you're okay for right now, but you're really focusing on the future with your prospecting. So is it immediate need or is it future based? Where are you coming from? So chat the answers to me right now. What is your priority with your prospecting? So I'll give you a minute to respond. Okay, so we've got some folks that we've got an immediate need here that we've got to get focused on. Okay. Of course, I have both. Yes, that's always awesome. Okay, so a little bit of everything it looks like. So we've got some folks here that are focusing on immediate. We've also got some that are thinking about what's coming down the road and making sure that they're positioned to take advantage of it. And then we have folks that are I want to do both. I want to create that cash flow right now, but then I also want to be focusing on the future. So what I'm going to encourage you do at this moment, so grab your piece of paper and we're going to make some notes here because I want you to answer the questions that I've got up here on the screen. So what is your purpose? And the purpose is not anything grand and glorious about, I want to impact the lives of people related to, that's not what this is about. I want to know your purpose. Do you want to make $5,000 in the next 2 weeks? Do you need to close a $100,000 account? Do you need to close? I mean, what's the primary objective that you have over the next 30 days? And if that question is future based, then it may be identify new target industries that you want to go after and who are the influencers that can help you get where you want to go within that industry. So think about what your purpose is, and then you can back into, so who is it that will be your decision maker? Who are you going to be talking to? And then based on what you have already found in your research with your clients and with talking with those dormant relationships, now we can start thinking about what's the trigger event that they're in the middle of right now. What are their biggest pains that you can help them address? And then think about how can you help them navigate through that? And then draft just a really short paragraph of what is the transformation benefit? What do you have to offer to them? And I'm going to be sharing this slide deck with you, but I do encourage you to take this slide and use it as a worksheet. And then we also, we're going to give you some other information and materials as we wrap up today. Remember, I told you you want to stick around for that. Then when you think about what this is, recognize that we have to create the communication campaigns. So frequency is key. There is nothing that you're really going to get with a one and done, except for it's that even a blind squirrel will find a nut every now and then. Well, I don't want you to be the blind squirrel. I want you to be that person that gets to go to the bank consistently with amazing opportunities. And in order to do that, you need to think about what the multi-touch campaign is. So for example, I shared with you, we've got one of our participants on the call who's working in the area of environmental services. So what Jim would want to do is he would want to identify who that target audience is, what are the reasons they would want to talk to him, what's the benefit that they experience from working with him, and then create a series of emails. And now with being in the legal field, it's a little bit different about directly reaching out to people that you don't have a relationship with. So you get to do things a little bit creatively. That's instead of picking up the phone and calling people, it's more along the lines of reaching out via social media and sharing information that's of interest. But what I want you to do is create a series of 6 to 8 separate touches where you're going to reach out to people in different ways. So if they are current or past clients, then you absolutely have the opportunity to send them emails and reach out with voicemails. So have a voicemail that calls and says, I just wanted to let you know, pay attention to your email. I'm going to be sharing some content with you. And the reason why you want to do that is because if you're like me, you're probably getting 100 to 150 emails a day. And most of them are related to COVID-19 or coronavirus or something. And right now, I'm just looking for anything that helps me shift my focus and think about positive things. So, but the information can easily get lost in someone's inbox. So you just want to reach out and let people know you may be experiencing challenges around, and you share the pain points. I have put together some information, or I found an article, or there is something that our firm is going to be doing in the next 30 days or in the next 2 weeks that I think would be of interest. Make sure that you not only put that content together, but you drive people to the content. So it's a combination of your voicemails that you leave, because very few people actually answer their phone. I do get that, but voicemail is a very powerful prospecting tool. Use it for good, but use it. Make sure that you're also putting together a series of 2 to 3 emails that you'll send out over a 2-week time period. Again, building a campaign. And then think of the social media posts and content that you can share that reinforce that. And if you're blogging, then by all means, make sure that the blogging is pulling in that content that's relevant as of this moment in time. And that is critically important for you to do right now. Okay, now, if you are at a spot where you need to be making a pivot based on where you've been, there's not a lot of activity. So for example, if you've been working with restaurants and retail may not be doing much right now. So you may need to take stock of what can you do right now. So if you can't provide your regular services, what do you need to be doing? What are the resources that you have? What are the needs that you have? What are the needs that are had by your clients and your prospects? So it may be something you just think about how companies are reimagining themselves. One of my local favorites, there's a company called In-Store Design Display, and Randy owns it, and he's one of my friends, and he's been a client for a long time. And what's interesting is they make designs for retail, for the like the retail cases. Now, I don't know if y'all have noticed, but there are a few retailers that are thriving, and then there's about 40% of them that are gone. So overnight, 40% of his client base evaporated. So what he's done instead is they do a lot with manufactured plastic materials, and he's been creating all kinds of safety screens for retail. He's been creating a lot in the healthcare space. So he's been making the PPE equipment that is specifically for hospitals. He started out doing a huge press release and donating it. So he's an example of somebody that is a hometown hero, that instead of sitting back and saying, oh, poor me, 40% of my clients have been closed, he said, okay, 40% of my business is gone and I need to replace it right now. Who is buying? And it was healthcare establishments, frontline workers. And he's like, what can we do for them at this moment in time? And then he designed it and pushed it out there. So an example also is schools. They closed and have been gone, but they do have the facilities and capacity to be able to make meals for large groups of people. So they've been serving low-income families food so that they're continuing to provide for their community and remain relevant. And I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday. There was a lady in one group that has a car rental service. And my suggestion to her was to get with her P&C agent first, and then also identify who out of her clients had access to kind of a temporary workforce, i.e. servers with good driving records, that could pick up and drive her car and go do Uber Eats, and also do Amazon deliveries and deliveries for the US Postal Service, because there are all kinds of needs right now for courier services way beyond what there's capacity, because all of a sudden that's something that doubled and tripled and quadrupled overnight. So what you have to think about is, what do you want to position right now? When you think about what your clients' needs are, how do you serve those unique values and really help them make the most of what's going on right now? So what I want you to think about right now, and I'm going to have Chris jump in and talk with us about this also, because you can recognize that right now there are very specific actions that are going to be high impact and low cost. Chris, you want to jump in?
So yes, thanks. There's a mantra that sounds like it was handmade for type A's. I think it was Henry Rollins who said, there's no such thing as downtime or free time. There's just time. So get going. And it goes back to what I was saying before, is that, we are the crazy ones, right? The ones who jump out in front and start doing things. So you have a choice, right? You can sit around, as Brendan said, feel sorry for yourself, or you can get moving, right? And what I think is so important is the worksheet that she went over, and what I've done is I've made a PDF copy of it, right? So you can visit the SalezWORKS sites. You'll get this. We'll email you this. Yeah, we'll email you this, and it'll have the link in it, which is that link right there. Or you can screenshot it right now or whatever, but it'll be easier for you. And what I want you to do is, what I suggest you do is use this to help you get started, right? Figure out where you're going and who you need to talk to and what your next steps are, right? Because a lot of times, just taking that first couple of steps is the hardest part, right? And what we'd ask you is, thanks for sticking around for us. And we'd like to ask you a favor, is that birds of a feather fly together. So we know that, people that are in your same position, right? That are business owners and things like that. And could you please just share this with somebody that you think would, benefit from it, right? And now I'm going to do something I think Brendan was prepared for. I'm going to toot her horn for a minute. So.
Oh boy, I'll pay you later.
Yeah, check out her programs, right? I met Brendan years ago, and it was like 12 years ago or something like that. Anyway, I'm still using the principles today. She added many tools in my toolbox, and she taught me how to work smart, not hard, right? And like I'm not going to go way into it, but I was looking at end of year numbers and things like that, and thought, well, I made a lot of money on this and this and this and this, but she taught me that to attribute dollar amounts to all your time, and on and on and on, and who to partner with and who not to partner with, right? So it's been invaluable, and I suggest you add tools to your prospecting. So, and I think productive prospecting is open now, isn't it? I mean,
It is, yeah. We have actually a couple of different formats that folks can jump into, depending on whether they are better distance learning and like digital, or whether they want the interaction of participating in a group, because we are still participating in a group. My groups are probably more active now than they've ever been. And it's exciting to see and hear of the successes that people are having with their prospecting effort, just based on continuing to move forward and take action and seize the day. It's, we talked about it in the newsletter this week, where it's fortune favors the bold. And bold is not just going willy-nilly. It's being very strategic and saying, I will move forward and I will take action and I will make it through this and come out stronger on the other end. And it's pretty exciting for where we can be right now. So thank you, Chris. I really appreciate the kind words.
No problem. I love this. And like Brendan said, is don't confuse being bold with being brash, right? I think we have a tendency to have this picture of ugly Americans or whatever, but what I love is that Sam Walton, the owner of Walmart, was asked, what do you think about the recession? And his response was, I thought about it and decided not to participate, right? And it's an attitude I'd like to suggest you adopt, right? And what I firmly believe in, and I wouldn't be saying this if I didn't believe it, is that for me, Brendan has taught me a lot of ways that I can get moving. And if you need somebody to kick you in the pants, she kicks pretty hard.
I got boots.
But anyway, I'd like to thank you for showing up today, and thanks for attending. And I believe Brendan has an offer for you.
I do have something that is way cool. I am so excited. Okay, so if you are like a lot of knowledge workers, if what you have to sell is your approach, your innovation, how you solve problems, how you interact and engage with people, we have discovered that the majority of our clients, even if you're selling a product, you still have a secret sauce to what you do. And we have put together, and this is actually a joint effort with Chris, we have put together a product of you workshop. We're calling it Brand You at this point. It's going to end up being something, who knows what we're going to end up calling it when it's all said and done, but we're getting it started right now. And it's basically a 4-day workshop. It does last a week. We started on Monday with some prep work. Then we are in session Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for an hour each day. And then we have a group where we're going to have conversations and discussions about what you're putting together. And you will come out of that 1-week session with a product that is based on your approach. So, for instance, we have one gentleman who is a financial advisor, and he works with individuals in career transition. He is putting together a workshop that helps someone analyze where their cash flow has been and what their needs are and household budget to figure out what's their best avenue of transitioning so that they cover short-term cash flow needs as well as manage for that. How do I replace my income, or even how do I grow in my career? So that path financially. So that's what he's putting together within this class. Doesn't have anything to do with managing assets, because what he discovered when he did all of his work with his clients was that they came to him because he helped them have a better life, and he helped them with life planning and making the right decisions for their career in order to accomplish their goals. So that's what he's putting together in this program. So that's something that we are giving as a bonus for anyone who participates in productive prospecting right now. And I'm pretty excited about the opportunities that people have right now in their business and in their life, and what you can do right now. We are at a moment in time that is a defining event for a lot of businesses and a lot of people professionally. And we can either take a look at where we're at this particular moment in time and say, I'm just going to wait it out and sit on the sidelines. And then you may have missed out on what could have been one of those moments that could be just transformative in your life and in your business. So I encourage you, don't sit on the sidelines. Take action based on what we've talked about today. Dig in and understand. And if you don't have a lot of clients right now to engage with, if you're in a new role, or if you're creating what that side hustle is going to be for you, talk the same exercises that we've talked about today doing with your current clients. Do them with your target audience, the business leaders or the professionals that are in life transition right now that you can provide the most value for, and figure out what could you offer them. And one thing that you will discover is that when you engage with the right people, they truly want it to be win-win-win. They want you to benefit every bit as much as they benefit from you. So they look for opportunities to hire you or engage you or work with you in some way, shape, or form. And then your conversation is more along the lines of what makes sense. Instead of, will you buy from me? It's, how can I serve you? And then here's what you can do to help me also. This is what I'm envisioning building in my business, or as an offer, or this is something that we've been thinking about offering. That's the opportunity that we have right now. And I just encourage you to seize the day with this, because like I said, I'm so excited to see what people are doing. But on the other side, my heart hurts, because there are a lot of people that are struggling and they're lost right now. And I know that I've got several folks on the call that have the potential to be that voice in the storm that can help people navigate through these times and come out on the other end more, I don't want to say let's say in a better spot than they ever envisioned as they transition through this. So I do want to say thank you so much for taking time with me today. I did run over just a bit. We do have those worksheets that Chris shared. I encourage you to take that along with the slide deck. Do the exercises that we've talked about today. Dig back into the recording. This will be on a YouTube link, and I'll be sharing that YouTube link with you via email. You'll have it probably on Monday. So I want to say thanks again for your time today, and it was good seeing some familiar faces, and also great seeing some new folks on the call. And I am looking forward to hearing of your success based on what you're taking action with today. Make sure you log back in next week. We're going to have another fantastic webinar that is specifically focused on what you can be doing right now to take action and continue making progress with your marketing and your prospecting effort. I want to say thanks again. I hope you have a great day, and I want to wish you all good selling. Take care and goodbye for now.